Hi everyone, welcome to episode 12 of the Stray Dog Footy podcast. I'm Frodo, your Floridian Bulldog Tragic, and I thank you so much for listening to my ramblings. There's nothing I'd rather be talking about than Australian rules football, with perhaps an ever so slight slant in favor of my team, but it really helps if there's someone there to hear it. So thank you again, everyone, for all the downloads, links, shares, and comments. Okay, let's quickly recap last week's action. In round 5, on Thursday Night Footy, we had the Blues and the Saints. Brett Ratton's squad continues to surprise, and St. Kilda kept marching in to beat Carlton by 3 goals. The Saints currently sit 4th in the standings, or ladder as it is called down under. Then, for Friday Night Footy, we had the Pies and Dons. Both teams were resplendent, if a bit late, in their Anzac Day uniforms. In case you didn't know, Anzac stands for Australian and New Zealand Armed Corps, and every year on April 25th, the two countries observe this day, much like we do for Memorial Day here in the United States. Also, on this day, Collingwood and Essendon play in the Anzac Day match. Well, of course, everything is different in 2020, so this year, when the two clubs met, they still wore their special jerseys for the occasion, even if it was a few months after they were originally scheduled to meet on Anzac Day. After all was done and dusted, the Bombers bested the Magpies by 15 points, much to the delight of most Australians, as almost everyone loves to hate the Pies. But, to be fair, this is something Collingwood supporters seem to wear as a badge of honor. As the saying goes, they hate us 'cause they ain't us, I guess. Unfortunately for Bombers fans, it looks like ex-Bulldog Jake Stringer suffered an ankle injury and will probably miss several games. Super Saturday started out with the Eagles and the Swans. West Coast seemed to finally get their mojo back, despite Hubbub living, and scored an even 11 in both the goal and the behinds columns, beating Sydney by 34 points. It's a crazy season to be sure, but look for the Eagles to keep flying up the ladder in the coming weeks once they return to their own nest. Then we had the Cats hosting the Suns. The story this year has been new Gold Coaster Matt Rowell's amazing play, but unfortunately it seems it may be over. The young superstar dislocated his shoulder in the first quarter, and it looks like he will require surgery and at least 3 months to recover. Thanks a lot, 2020. Just when we were all actually happy about something, here you go doing your thing again. But for Geelong and the Cat supporters, they muscled their way to a 37-point victory. A nice way to celebrate the Little Master, Gary Ablett Jr., and Joel Selwood's 350th and 300-game milestones, respectively. Gaz's over 55-meter goal was just the icing on the cake. Next, we had 2 games starting at the same time. A much-anticipated match was number 1 Port Adelaide versus number 3 Brisbane. The young Lions clawed their way to the number 2 spot by defeating the Power, who still remain atop the ladder, by 6 goals and 1 behind. Then, simultaneously, we had my Bulldogs taking on the Kangaroos. The last few meetings have been extremely close, and not without stress to yours truly, let me tell you. So believe you me when I say how chill it was to see my doggies take the early lead and never look back. Josh Bruce looks to finally have settled in, kicking 6, count 'em 6 goals. I think that qualifies as a bag, right? Especially these days. Also, this was another Josh's first game this year. Shacky was impressive up front, and that one play where he tapped the ball to Bruce that took off running towards the goal was a thing of beauty. Tim English is continuing to grow as a ruckman. Not dominant yet, but I feel he definitely held his own against Goldstein. But the things he can do outside of the ruck is something many seasoned ruckmen can never pull off. To paraphrase the Chief himself, Jason Dunstall, outside of the ruck, many ruckmen are not that skilled with the ball. This is not the case with English. He can mark and kick with the best of them. And I believe, as he gets more ruck experience, he will develop into an All-Australian one day. Unfortunately, the injury bug bit us hard once again. Bailey Smith went out with a concussion in the first quarter, and Leif Vandermeer, after an impressive performance, went out under the same protocol in the second half. Both are tracking well, but are currently questionable for next week's game. Also, Ling Zhang appears to have hurt his ankle as well. This just adds to our injury list. Lin looks to be out for 2 months, and of course Naughton and Lloyd continue to recover. This situation is not at all helped by Crozier being suspended for a week with a supposedly dangerous tackle. But by the end, the mighty Bulldogs soundly defeated North by a score of 87-38. That makes it 3 wins in a row, placing the Doggies in the top 8 as well. Sunday's matches began with the Crows and Dockers. This was also broadcast in the United States during prime time, but unfortunately, most people regarded it as a dud of a game. Considering it was between the two teams at the bottom of the ladder, I am not surprised. However, I honestly feel it was, even as a more lame edition of the AFL, more entertaining than anything we have here in the US. Except maybe the NHL. Ice hockey is basically footy on skates, at least as far as the speed, skill, toughness, and back-and-forth action goes. But it, like everything else, is shut down due to COVID. So I doubt many Americans complained. Getting back to the game, Freo finally won a game over the still winless Adelaide Crows by 20 points. Next, we had the disappointing Demons against the Tigers, who have also been struggling of late. The Tigers snapped a solid 27-point but expensive victory, as they recorded several injuries as well. How this bodes for the future, we'll have to wait and see. Finally, we had the Giants taking on the Hawks, with GWS solidly defeating Hawthorn by a score of 83-49. On an interesting side note, while the AFL seemed to take Coach Clarko's advice last week on calling more holding the ball free kicks instead of ball ups to heart, because the total count was way up over the round, of the 11 that were called in this particular match, only 1 went the way of the Hawks. Careful what you wish for, I guess. It also did nothing to improve scoring. Small sample size, though, so we will see what the future holds in store for this as well. Well, the big news in footy is the closing of Victoria due to the resurgence of the coronavirus. All 10 Victorian teams should be settling in as I speak into their new interstate hub homes for the next 30-plus days, or perhaps much longer. Weeks longer even. There's also talk of cramming more rounds of matches into these coming weeks, as in more than 1 game a week, maybe with just 4 or 5 days in between. Exactly how and if this will take place remains to be seen. The word we all keep hearing during these uncertain and unprecedented times is flexibility. So, take any plans, announcements, and definitely rumors with a certain degree of skepticism. That being said, let's take a look at the next set of matches on the 2020 schedule, or fixture, as it is called in Australia. Alright, coming up in round 6 on Thursday Night Footy, we first have a real ferociously feline fight with number 3 Geelong and number 2 Brisbane playing at the Sydney Cricket Ground. I really wonder how the shortened round SCG will affect the Cats, who are so adept at playing at their more narrow home ground. The Lions have been on a roar lately, pun intended, and I'm looking forward to this matchup. If you have ESPN3, you can watch it here on American TV. Otherwise, as always, I cannot recommend the Watch AFL app strongly enough. And of course, the best way to get the app is through your favorite club's international membership. I'll provide a link to where I get mine in the show notes. Then, on Friday Night Footy, we have a real bird fight between the embattled Magpies and the Hawks. Both teams are looking to bounce back from losses last week as they move from Victoria and settle into hub life. Of all the clubs having to relocate this week, popular opinion seems to be that the move is actually of a benefit for Collingwood, as they can close ranks and ignore much of the noise they would have been subjected to in Melbourne concerning several of their key players' off-field activities. I'm quite excited to see how it plays out, and you can watch it too, here in America, on Fox Sports 1. Super Saturday starts off with the Freo Dockers and St. Kilda Saints. Both clubs are coming off of wins, and you can catch the action on Fox Sports 2. Here in America, of course. Next, we have another feathery fracas between the Eagles and the Crows. West Coast will most definitely like to rack up another win and look to sink their talons into Adelaide's so far soft underbelly. Here in the USA, you can see the feathers fly on Fox Sports 2. Then, we have the Demons and Suns. Melbourne is languishing near the bottom of the ladder, and most people think that Gold Coast, even without the sensational services of Matt Rowell, will be too much for Melbourne. To find out, here in the States, you will have to get the Watch AFL app, or at least go over to your friend's house who has it. As it starts around 4 a.m. in the morning, Eastern Time Zone, this would have to be a very good friend indeed. Next, we have Essendon and North Melbourne. The Bombers, currently sitting 5th on the ladder, are looking to add another 4 points in their ledger, and the Kangaroos would be desperate to halt their slide. Unfortunately, once again, no TV broadcast in the States for this one. Sunday starts out with the still number 1 Port Adelaide Power against the 7th-placed GWS Giants. Most footy experts predict that both of these teams will play finals, and you can see the drama unfold on Fox Sports 2 here in the US of A. Next, we have the Tigers and Swans. The Tigers seemed to get their rhythm back last week, but how much their injuries will affect them remains to be seen. Sydney, on the other hand, have been one of the slowest starting teams all season, and will be looking to come out strong. The match will be shown in the States on ESPN2. Then finally, what we have all been waiting for. The last match of Round 6. The Carlton Blues and the glorious Sons of the Scray, the Saltwater Lads, the Bone Mill Fellows, God's red, white, and blue gift to the world, and if I sound biased, it's only because I am. Of course, I'm talking about the mighty, mighty Western Bulldogs. All kidding aside, the Doggies have been playing some beautiful footy of late, and I am seriously relying on the depth and quality of our list for this to continue. Our injuries to key personnel are adding up quickly, but I'm hoping that Lockie Hunter will be returning from his suspension and that both Bailey Smith and Leif Vandermeer will be cleared through their concussion protocols. I myself, and most every other Bulldogs fan, and player alike, are reassured by the presence of a Liberatore in our midst, and with both Davant and Bevo at the helm. That being said, as much as I and most everyone loves Eddie Betts, I really hate it when he plays against us. Here's hoping that all that time new Bulldog star defender Alex Keith spent training with Eddie at Adelaide is enough to shut him down for a Bulldogs victory. I will be up watching the action on Fox Sports 1 at 4:45 a.m. Eastern Time Zone, US. I understand that this may be a bit early for some, but as my buddy Craig over at the A Yank on the Footy podcast likes to say, Australian rules football is the reason the DVR was invented. Okay, well, fairly short and sweet today. As always, I thank you so much for listening. I will be so thankful if you'll be kind enough to share a link to this podcast with your friends and family. After all, it's all about sharing and growing this amazing sport of Aussie rules that we all love. And as much as I enjoy meeting fans of this game from all over the world, it is really nice to have someone local to share the fun with too. So go out there and spread the word about the bone-crushing hits, spectacular marks, and the fastest game on grass. And if there's still time, maybe you could name drop this project as well. This podcast can be found on your favorite podcast player or at astraydogfooty.podbean.com. Also, if you could take the time, I would love it if you could let me know what you liked or what you disliked, or perhaps there is a particular question about footy you have that I can help answer. in a future podcast or even via message. You can reach me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Stray Dog Footy and by email at straydogfooty@yahoo.com. Also, I just wanted to mention that I am not endorsed by or officially affiliated with either the Australian Football League or the Western Bulldogs, beyond being a huge fan and supporter. Likewise, though I am not endorsed or affiliated with Peg and the Rejected, I am a fan of their music. I would like to thank them for the use of their song, Red, White, Black and Blue, which I used a portion of as the intro to this episode. I will also play us out to their entire song, and of course, leave a link in the show notes to their music. Take care, everyone. Remember, be safe, be smart, and most importantly, be kind. See you next time on Stray Dog Footy.